Megan Morant is a TV host for WWE programming on Peacock, WWE The Bump, Raw Talk, Smackdown Low Down, and many of the WWE pre-shows, including NXT. Megan O'Brien was a longtime member of the New England Patriots organization. Megan Conley is a 12-time marathon runner, kidney donor, and also my friend. Megan, why the three faces of Foley?
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for having me on the show. We are good friends. We've been Twitter DMing about the show you work on, Felger and Maz, a little bit about wrestling. It's been so fun to get to know you a little bit through this journey. But you are right. I do have 3 different identities.
So the fun thing about Megan is when I did the NXT bit, she was good enough to shout me out on it when Braun Breaker gave me the shoulder tackle.
Yeah, I
Because
saw
otherwise
you.
you'd
I
be
was
like,
like,
who
come
is
on.
this?
I mean, listen, anybody who lives in Boston and is a Boston sports fan, we all know you. So the show was in Boston. It's like, oh my God, there's Jimmy Stewart from 98.5 The Sports Hub. I mean, you're iconic in Boston, so you deserve the shout out.
That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that greatly. So little known story about that, and I shared this with you privately. I don't think I've shared it with the public. Before you guys put the panel shows back in the home headquarters, I was supposed to be on that panel show.
Oh,
If
man.
you guys had been emanating from Lowell that day, I was going to be part of that pre-show.
Well, that would have been fun. We will have to bookmark it for another time, and maybe someday you will be on a panel with me. You never know. We can manifest that. How about that?
I know people, and you know people, so we can make that happen. I know you're itching to talk football, but I want to start with some WWE stuff because I don't know the answers to some of these questions, which makes me very excited. What was your hook into wrestling? Do you have a moment? Do you have a match? Like, what got you into wrestling sports entertainment?
Well, I actually really didn't know anything about wrestling until I had an interview with WWE to be a backstage interviewer. I had a call with Michael Cole. My name got passed around through different connections. As you know, I was working at the Patriots. I was looking to move on and sort of advance my career in other ways. I loved it there. I just reached my ceiling. So, my name got passed around, and somehow or another, I get an email from Michael Cole, and he wanted to have a call. And I said to my husband, he said, "Oh, do you want to go do this?" It was a Friday. I remember that. And I said, yes, of course. But before we go do whatever it is we were doing, I completely forgot it now, but it was years ago. I said, "I have a call today with WWE." He's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have a call with WWE." He's like, who do you have a call with from WWE? I'm like, "Michael Cole." And he's like, "Megan, you realize he's the Joe Buck of wrestling." And I was like, "Wait, what? Oh my God." So I had a call with Cole. He said, "How much do you know about wrestling?" I was ready to lie and, just say that I knew everything. And before I could even get a word out, Cole said, "Please don't lie. Tell me the truth. It's not going to hurt you either way." So I said, "I've never watched before." And he said, "Okay, I'll give you a month and you can watch." And it was right around this time of the year because the first week I watched was the Royal Rumble. So what a time to become a wrestling fan, watching the road to WrestleMania, and I'm preparing for an interview by doing so. So it was really fun. I think my moment when I first sat down to watch the product was seeing Bianca Belair. She came off the screen to me. And I see her whipping the braid and how strong she is. She's hoisting other women over her head. And I said, wow, if I was a little girl at home, I would want to be Bianca Belair. So that was a moment for me. And then I always look back to the first pay-per-view, the first premium live event. They were called pay-per-views at the time of the story I'm about to just tell. But the first premium live event from when I joined WWE when we went back on the road. Because I started with the company when we were still in the Thunderdome era. So I didn't really get it. I didn't understand the WWE universe because I hadn't interacted with the WWE universe. And I remember being in Texas, and that was the show, I'm sure you remember, where John Cena came back. And
That
this
was Money
light,
in the Bank in Texas. That was
yes. And
notable for a few different reasons.
this light bulb went on, and I was like, oh my god, like, what is this? And where has this been my whole life? So yeah, those were my wrestling moments.
So WWE, I'm 42. I've been a fan since WrestleMania 3, which sadly is a cliche, but I'm third generation wrestling fan. And my 5-year-old is on the verge of being fourth generation, but we'll see about that. She's upset that Charlotte is hurt, so I hope
What does she think
Charlotte
about
is
mommy though?
what's that?
Mommy, I mean, come on. Your
Oh, I
daughter's
had a wonderful
on the Judgment Day.
I love Rhea. I talked to her when they were in Boston. That's an off the air story, but she's great. She's fabulous.
Yes.
Hopefully I can, but side topic. But WWE is really, and you figured this out, it's about characters.
Yes.
It's about characters and story. And that's really the key to successful wrestling. And so the fact that you got into it and got immediately hooked when somebody's like, "Oh, you have a month to figure out our product," is kind of like a massive crash course for somebody who you know, I got hooked when I was young, so I was toast.
Well, no,
Um,
there are still things I'm certainly learning, right?
yeah,
But one of the things that WWE does so well is the recall is fantastic. Every story is put in perspective. So next week there's a World Heavyweight Championship match between Seth freaking Rollins and Jinder Mahal.
love
I was
Jinder.
around WWE 12 years ago, but because of this match, I know these two have a history that dates back 12 years when Seth faced Jinder for the NXT Championship, the first ever NXT Championship, and Seth won. So like I'm constantly learning as I'm following the product each week. Like I didn't know that about Seth and Jinder until Monday and it happens and we're understanding the magnitude. And I really love the way the WWE storytelling is not only week to week, but then we connect the dots from years ago, from months ago, when things come back up and they go away. It's storytelling at its finest.
Well, one of the things that I've always believed is kind of like and I'm not as hardcore of a viewer as I once was, but I'm like that tier right below hardcore, I would say right now in my life, is that they reward you for paying attention
Yes.
and they reward you for paying attention to details. I think there was a time where it was just all crash TV and it didn't matter. I think we've evolved from that time. And my bias is towards Bruce Pritchard because he does the podcast and I love Bruce and I've gotten to know him a little bit, but he was always the detail person behind the Mega Power story. And he would tell people, film this because we're going to call back to that. I know that there are other writers and team members on it, but Bruce is probably the one who stands out and Michael Hayes, amongst that crew. But so that's why I've always loved. So I'm glad that because there's this thing in wrestling, because I know Steve Austin when he did Tough Enough years ago. There was a competitor on Tough Enough who said her favorite match was like Alicia Fox against somebody. And Steve Austin gave her the business for it. And in real time, it's like, well, yeah, why is that your favorite match? That's not like an all-time moment or an all-time classic, or it's not a cliche, or it's not anything like that. What I have learned is that wrestling touches people in different ways, in different shapes, in different forms. So your first moment to wrestling is different from my first moment in wrestling. And there's nothing wrong with that because we're all in the same team. We're all fans. We should all support each other. And that's the thing about the wrestling sports entertainment community, is that we're all just a bunch of people who are just looking for characters to live vicariously through for a few hours a week.
Absolutely. And it's one of my favorite things because, you have a sports background. I have a sports background. I mean, there are certain moments in sports, whether it be your team or another team. I mean, just for example, you remember where you were and who you were with when the Patriots came back from being down 28-3. You
Yep.
remember where you were and who you were with when Edge shocked the world and came back at the Royal Rumble. And same can be said for Survivor Series just a few months ago with CM Punk. So it's all of these moments. And I think, when I was in sports, that's like why you do it, right? To experience those moments. And now in WWE, those moments still happen all the time. And I think that's what makes both of those things so special.
So the first time I hosted a live post WrestleMania show was after the WrestleMania in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the night that Roman stacked Edge and uh, Daniel Bryan. I'm sorry, I got to make sure I get his name right. And the belt that is over this shoulder here is signed by Roman Reigns on the back, and it says, stack them, whatever his cliche was at the time. But it's like stack them, rack them, pin them, whatever. And the storytelling element is, if you watched Friday Night SmackDown, he told you exactly what he was going to do to win that triple threat match. And then because you watched that SmackDown and Roman actually did it, you were rewarded for paying attention to it.
I love it. I love it. It all comes full circle.
It absolutely does. So it is Royal Rumble season. It is WrestleMania season. Yeah. And the Royal Rumble match is my favorite match personally.
It's my favorite pay-per-view.
Because it's a new match.
Live event.
Okay.
That's the second time I've done that.
Do you know that I still will say WWF because it's just so ingrained in me?
No, that is a big no. It's
I know that's a legal thing on your brand.
And it is WWE.
I know, but I still do that. Like I'll be in the middle of ranting about like Roman or something like that, and I'll be like, he's the WWF Universal, WWE. I'll do that kind of thing. But it's my favorite match because it's a new match every 90 seconds or 2 minutes, depending on how they're doing the timer. I certainly have a lot of opinions on the match and who's going to win and who's going to main event WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Megan Morant, I want to know, who do you want to see win the Royal Rumble match and main event WrestleMania?
Oh gosh. This is a tough one because there are so many unbelievable things going on right now. Obviously, we've all been waiting for Cody Rhodes to finish the story. I love Cody Rhodes. Someone wrote into our show today on The Bump saying Cody Rhodes is the closest thing we have right now to Captain America. And I think they might be right because Cody Rhodes is going out to live events and promising to be somebody's best man.
I saw that.
That's wild. He's giving tickets to the wrestling club. I mean, it is unbelievable, the things that Cody Rhodes is doing.
He's Hulk Hogan right now. He's Hulk Hogan 84 to 92 WWE.
And I am so behind him. I want to see him finish the story. I loved everything that he was doing with Shinsuke Nakamura. I loved the match they had on Raw. So I'd love to see Cody, but it's hard not to feel for a guy like Drew, right? He had the company on his back in a time when the company needed it the most. And I understand his anger. I think sometimes he's a little too caught up with everybody else. And then you gotta love how CM Punk comes back so focused, locked in, and ready and confident on winning the Rumble. Matt Camp and I had him on our preview show, and he said, he's like, I would love to enter #1 overall. Like, bring it on, bring it on. So that's the kind of confidence that wins you matches like the Royal Rumble. So those are my 3 picks.
So I have a wild cockamamie storyline.
For the women, it's a whole different story. But
we'll talk about the women's match in a second. But I have this whole idea of, if you really want to start the Raw, this would be my strategic, and I have submitted to WWE Creative, so hopefully they go with it. Cody enters 1, Punk enters 2. They go through the entire match, and it's 1 and 2 at the end.
Mm-hmm.
They do because it's the 30-year anniversary of it. They do the Bret Hart Lex Luger finish from 1994, where they both win the Rumble. And so now you've got 2 winners, right? Mm-hmm. They have their story to figure out, who's actually going to do it. It doesn't get figured out. And so what ends up happening is they both decide to pick Roman, and it's now Roman Reigns defending against CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, and Roman stacks them both and retains in Philadelphia.
Wow. I should have known where this was going because you love Roman Reigns so much. You really I was waiting for you to have the ending a little bit different. And then I'm like, oh, Megan, come on, you know better.
Well, because the Rumble is coming up, and he's got a fatal 4-way match, and my vision is he's going to stack LA Knight, AJ Styles and Randy Orton and retain there. So, and then The Rock at the Elimination Chamber, and he'll beat The Rock. So it's Roman versus everybody. I mean, Roman wins.
Listen, at this point, I am not picking against Roman Reigns. You have no arguments on my behalf. You can't argue against what the guy has done. It's been remarkable. I like where you're going. I like it. I think it's very fun. We had Lex Luger on the bump this past season, a couple months ago.
Weeks ago, yeah.
And he talked about that Royal Rumble match, and I didn't realize 30 years ago. So that's quite something. And if that were to be a thing, what a tribute, right?
Providence, Rhode Island, right down the street from your former place of employment.
Yeah,
he's a high-ranking member of the Patriots organization.
I did love today. You guys did finally play Sunshine Paul. We didn't have Gloomy Paul, so that was
Paul Perillo, former coworker of yours.
My Uncle Paul. I was texting him today, Uncle Paul, as I call him.
So that would be, and I also want to make mention because. So to me, there are some obvious winners, right? Like Cody and Punk are they're the two favorites going into this thing.
Yeah.
And I would say Sami Zayn can't be slept on. I would say main event Jey Uso can't be slept on.
Main event Jey Uso. I mean, breakout star. As weird as that sounds, because he already was a star, but I think he's breakout star of the year without question.
And my sleeper is Solo.
I like it. You know what I'm thinking? I don't know if they're like sleepers in for the match, but I'm really excited to see if the Creed brothers are in it, how they compete in the Royal Rumble. Are we going to get a Brutus ball in the Rumble? I'm here for it. Give me all of the Brutus balls.
I also would say that if they have them start 1 and 2 like Demolition did in '89.
Ooh, I like it.
Because Megan, there are no friends in the Royal Rumbles. No friends, only foes.
Only foes. And then celebrity. Are we going to get any surprises? Do you have?
I kind of expect Bad Bunny.
I would love. Yeah, I mean,
it's Bad Bunny season.
I think I watch his entrance from Puerto Rico at least once a month.
That crowd for Backlash was insane.
And the drone flying over, and then the music hitting, and him pulling the cart out with all the weapons.
But what if the celebrity is The Rock? Ooh, the possibilities.
If you smell.
The Samantha's reaction, Samantha, the ring announcer, her reaction was tremendous.
Oh, it was so good. And so authentic too, because I think that's how we all reacted, right?
She's a local woman, isn't she?
She's from New Bedford.
Yeah.
New Bedford, grew up in Dennis, and then went to high school and whatnot in New Bedford.
She's great. She's tremendous.
She's a Celtics fan, Patriots fan, so.
And then for the women's side of it, I think it's Bayley.
I think Bayley, but I like what Becky Lynch has been doing, and Becky Lynch seems really motivated. Tough to pick against someone right now that isn't named Nia Jax. I mean, Nia Jax, just her size and strength advantage, and she pointed out on Monday, different Nia than the past, right? And the stare down between her and Rhea Ripley. Think you got to watch Nia. I mean, you always have to watch Nia in a match like this, even when she came back last year. It's just because of her strength and her size. She has an extreme advantage in a match like the Royal Rumble, but I think she's on a roll of her own lately.
I think if there are multiple women in the ring at the same time that Nia is, they're going to make sure that if there's 5-6 women in the ring, they're going to all make sure that she gets eliminated.
They have to, right?
They have to. That's the strategy.
I know it's every person for themselves in the Royal Rumble, except when it comes to getting Nia Jax over the top rope.
Yep. Got to do that.
Yes.
Got to do that.
Who do you like for the women?
Oh, I would go for Bayley. I would go Bayley for the win, Becky for the win. I would go with either one of those two. I think that Becky versus Rhea is a main event night 1 WrestleMania match.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way. I think that Bayley, I mean, Damage Control has kind of figured things out, but at the same time, there's still tension points there. I could see a Bailey Io Sky match.
It would be very interesting, but Bailey does have a master plan right now. So we
She
have to
always
see if
does.
she can execute her master plan so that Damage Control gets all the gold.
Yep. And you never know the surprises. There could be some big money in the Royal Rumble match. You never know.
Never
Never
know.
know. That's the great thing. That's why the Rumble is my favorite match.
Oh,
As the second face of Foley, so to speak, as Megan Conley, you've run 12 marathons, which is amazing, including
thank
Boston, Chicago, New York, right?
I
You've
don't
run
know
all.
if it's amazing. Like maybe like most people are
Well,
like, why? Why have
so
you
I'm
done
6'4". I'm a has-been wannabe athlete. I can barely walk up the stairs at this age. So like the fact that you can run 26 miles and want to do it willingly is impressive to me.
Well, so I ran in college. I got a scholarship to run at Northwestern, and I've been running since I was 8 years old. And when I got out of college, I just kind of said to myself, if I stop, I will never start again. So I just continued to run. And then I was really inspired by a bunch of women who qualified for the Olympic trials 4 years ago. Like over 300 women did. And it was like all these women who were working regular jobs. And then kind of like the competitive juices started flowing again. And I really wanted to get back into training and getting on the track and getting faster. So I'd say like the last 2.5 years, I've really like gotten into running again. Once I was done running in college, it was just like I was still doing it. Now I'm like in, if that makes sense.
I think the most impressive thing is because I grew up in Newton, where Heartbreak Hill
Ugh.
is you blew up Sheamus. And Sheamus on his Workout Warrior YouTube series, and you had him hands and knees blown up running up Heartbreak Hill. And you're
Well,
like, I'm good. I'm bouncy. I'm ready. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go, Sheamus. Come on.
Well, it's funny because we drove to the hill and he looks at it and he's like, "This is it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "It doesn't look that big." I'm like, "Trust me, it's big." And not only that, but you hit this after running 20 miles and you get to the top at 21. And he was like, "All right, let's do a couple." And then he quickly learned that this hill that he thought was not a hill was indeed a hill.
It was Heartbreak Hill for him. It was
Yes.
Heartbreak Hill for a lot of people. That's why they have the statue there. No,
Yes.
it's perfect. But one of the things that, as Megan Conley, you've donated a kidney, and
Yeah.
you shared this story to me in real time. We were texting about it,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you've shared it on other platforms. But it's such a great story. I'd love for you to share it with this audience.
Of course, it sort of goes back to my Boston roots too. So, my former boss for the Patriots, I'm on a group chat with all the people I used to work there with, and we were like all texting back and forth. And someone was talking about how they had kidney stones, and I just sort of had put in the group chat, if anybody is ever looking for a kidney. I tested recently to donate to somebody else and it didn't work out. Let me know and I'll consider donating
Can I
to
stop you for a second,
it. Of
Megan? Did
course.
that somebody else, and I won't mention the name, I know the name, you've told me the name. Did that someone else have successful everything going through?
Yeah, got a
Okay.
kidney.
All right.
Everything was good.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I just kind of said that and I sort of was like tongue in cheek about it. And then my phone rang and it was my old boss and he said, "Hey, are you being serious about your kidney?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, my wife is in kidney failure and is looking for a kidney." And I said, "Well, put her on the phone." Put her on the phone. We find out that we are not a blood type match, but I knew about this program through the National Kidney Registry where you can donate a kidney on behalf of somebody and start a chain reaction. And after you donate your kidney, the person you donate on behalf of will get a voucher and then they can get a kidney as well. So I went through all of the testing and on July 12th, so it will be 6 months ago this Friday, which is crazy because it feels like yesterday, but also 6 years ago at the same time. Yeah, so July 12th, I went in and I went to Mass General Hospital. It was a laparoscopic surgery. They removed my left kidney, and my kidney got on a plane to go to UCLA and was transplanted into a man named Joseph. And he's doing great. He's feeling awesome. He's back to being himself for the most part. He still has to go to some doctor's appointments and whatnot, but overall he's doing fantastic. But Joseph's mother, she donated on behalf of her son. So after my kidney went to Joseph, Joseph's mother's kidney went to somebody else who had somebody else donate on behalf of them. So their kidney went to somebody else. And this all happened. 4 people got a kidney because I donated my kidney to a stranger. So it's wild. It's crazy. There are days that I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I actually did that. And then there are moments I'm like, oh, of course I did that. So I'm still sort of navigating my emotions about the whole thing. But I feel really proud that I was able to help somebody out.
So is Joseph a runner like you?
He's not a runner that I know of. We've only exchanged emails. I know he has an 8-year-old daughter. So he sent me pictures of himself and his daughter and his family. And that's kind of when everything really hit me, was not when I connected with Joseph, not when I saw the picture of him and his daughter. That was very emotional. But he sent me a picture of him with his entire family. So his mom was there, his dad was there, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, you name it, everybody in this picture. And I just looked at it and had tears rolling down my face. I was like, oh my God. I was just thinking about him. I wasn't thinking about all of the people who are, involved in his life and that he means something to. So that's been really cool. And hopefully one day we will get to meet. I used to travel all the time with Smackdown, and now I don't travel as much anymore. So I'll figure it out. But someday I'm sure we will meet, and it will be a really cool moment to meet the guy who has my kidney, which is insane that that's even possible, right?
I've medical people in my family, and I'm still like impressed at the fact that you can fly an organ cross country, and it's just kind of like common.
It's wild, and it's through the organization in which I donated through the National Kidney Registry. I mean, this is a unbelievable operation. You go to the National Kidney Registry and they have TVs all over, and on the TVs they are tracking organs as the organs are flying to wherever they are. And if there's a plane delay, a screen will turn yellow and then it will turn red and then the phone starts ringing, and it's just amazing that this process exists.
Yeah, it's wild. It's
Yeah,
mind blowing, realistically.
truly.
Um, but it's a great thing that you've done, and it's a great thing
Well,
that
thank
you've
you.
done that chain reaction thing, because
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I get nervous that people are gonna be like, "Oh, she's just the kidney girl." But the reason I share and the reason I talk about it
you
is
saved a
because,
life and
uh
started a chain that saved multiple lives.
thank
So like,
you. But truly the reason I talk about it and the reason I share, and like I ran the New York City Marathon 15 weeks after donating, and one of the only reasons I even say that 15 weeks after donating is because I want people out there to know that this is something they can do. They don't have to do it. I don't ever want to tell anybody what to do with their body, but they can do it, and they will be okay. I actually got goosebumps right before New York. This is kind of I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but
sure.
when you start the marathon, you go over to Staten Island, so everybody gets on these buses. So I hop on the bus, I sit down, and some stranger sits next to me. We start chit chatting, and what time are you trying around? What's your goal? What's this? And so I said, oh, I don't really know. I just had surgery 15 weeks ago, so I'm just gonna go out there and see what happens. And she's like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, what did you have done? And I told her, oh, I donated a kidney. And I told her the whole story, and she said, I am in shock right now because my father actually needs a kidney. This is the second time he got a kidney from his brother, and now he needs another one. And I'm in the process of testing as we speak. And it was just such a weird moment, because what are the chances out of over 50,000 runners that the stranger who sits next to me happens to be testing to donate a kidney to her father, and she's sitting next to someone who just donated. So we exchanged contacts, and I think just like the more I talk about it, the more I realize there are a lot of people out there that this impacts. And look, again, I don't want to tell anybody what to do with their body, but I think it's a really powerful thing. And if somebody feels called to do it, I love to advise and help out and, share my experience in any way I can.
Well, so one of my college professors, his name was Len Malo. He's a longtime radio guy, and he's no longer with us, unfortunately. But he always would say, "Tell your story because you never know who needs to hear it." And it's
Yeah.
something that I've always it's the pin thing on my Twitter, but it's always something that I've kind of carried with me, and because you never know who you're speaking to, you never know somebody's situation, so maybe something that you share helps them.
Yeah. I like that a lot because, yeah, I say it feels like 6 months ago, and it also feels like 6 years ago because I even feel like I've learned from telling my story, right? Um, and I've learned about myself through the process as well. So it's been really eye-opening. And I would do it again in a second. I have absolutely no regrets. I'm really proud of what I was able to do. But I do like that quote a lot because I think sometimes I don't know, even like social media, you overthink everything. You're like, oh, are people gonna like this? And so sometimes sharing my story to me, I get a little weirded out by it, but I do keep telling myself like somebody needs to hear it, so I'm going to keep
Yep.
telling it.
Be you, Megan,
Thank
or
you.
whichever face of Foley it is. So
Yes.
as Megan O'Brien, you
Yes.
are a high-ranking member of the Patriots organization,
Yes,
and
very high.
I believe you were born in Chicago or at least Illinois. Is that
Yes,
right?
I was born in Chicago, went to the same high school as the great CM Punk.
Get
Yes, I love
the
it.
CM Punk T-shirt because I'm a CM Punk honk. Um, so how did you end up with the Patriots?
Ooh, man. Yeah, Megan O'Brien. Megan Connolly is my married name. O'Brien was my maiden name.
And
So
Morant is your sports entertainment name.
correct. So we have all of the
I
faces
should ask how
down.
that remind me to ask you how that name came about after this.
Oh, it's not as good of a story as it once was, but
Oh, okay.
um
It's
I
storytelling, it's entertainment. Just, kind of make it up as you go along.
exactly. You never know what turn it's gonna take.
So
I
how'd you end
grew
up
up
with the Patriots?
Well, I grew up always wanting to be in TV. Like when I was a little girl growing up in Chicago, I used to watch WFLD. Tamron Hall and David Navarro were on the show, and I used to put on like little newscasts in front of my dad and be like, "I'm going to be Tamron Hall one day." And then I was such a sports fan. I grew up on the White Sox. I grew up a huge Notre Dame football fan. My dad hates the Bears, so we grew up rooting for the Packers, but only because we hated the Bears. I was never like a Packers fan. I was just a Bears hater. So I grew up a really big sports fan, and then I was an athlete. Running in high school at a high level, getting a scholarship to run in college. I was just like so drawn to sports. At Northwestern, I was involved in the TV station, so I did like all the sports casting, and I was dead set that I'm going to be a TV sports reporter, host, personality, whatever it is you call it. Get out of school. It's hard to get a job in this field, right? Especially you want to be in front of that camera.
Yep.
I moved to Hoboken, New Jersey. I got a part-time job with the Big East Conference, and I did women's basketball, women's soccer. I mean, I did every sport there was for Big East, and if I could get a game on FS2 for women's basketball, that was a huge deal for me at the time, and doing sideline for them. And I needed to, get another job to pay my rent in Hoboken. So I was emailing every single college in New Jersey and New York and the tri-state area. Just my name, my resume, my reel. Do you have any opportunities within your athletic department? And Princeton got back to me. And I did color commentary for Princeton women's basketball, which I was definitely not qualified for. Positive on that, but they liked me, so they let me do sideline for men's basketball. So big Mitch Henderson fan, love what the Tigers are doing. They're having a great season this year. So I followed Princeton along, and then I did like some Ivy League stuff. And after a year of freelancing and doing Big East and doing Ivy League, I did some New Jersey high school stuff. I had a reel, and I saw that the Patriots were hiring, and yeah, I sent my stuff over, and I had a little audition. I remember I had to take a written test on the Patriots. And it was pretty intimidating because this was the year after the Patriots had just come back from being down 28-3 to win the Super Bowl. And, New Englanders are diehards.
We're
Boston
passionate.
sports fans are, yes, passionate.
Passionate is the proper word.
Passionate. So I had never been to an NFL game in my life. I'd been to many college football games. I'd been on the sideline my time at Northwestern, but I'd never even been to an NFL game. So walking into an interview at Gillette Stadium, I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. But thankfully, they liked me and took a chance on me and gave me the position to be the team reporter. So while I was there, I wore a lot of different hats. It was a great opportunity to kind of take like a graduate school on TV and broadcasting. I mean, I worked in the team reporter role. I hosted some shows for them. And then eventually I got to do sports talk radio with our good friend, my uncle Paul Perillo. And I really didn't know what I was doing at all. And I remember I would say things to Paul like, I didn't grow up here. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I mean, I think I've read every single book there is on the Patriots and their history because I always had that imposter syndrome of like, I'm not one of them. And then now that I got so far in, I mean, I'm listening to Felger and Maz on my run the other day on a random Tuesday afternoon. And now like, I almost forget that I'm from Chicago. I'm like, wait, I feel like I'm from Boston because it was just so many of my formative years. And, I put a lot into getting to know the history of that organization and really understanding the Boston sports fan.
We're hard to understand. We just cover our teams and get out of our way.
It's so funny though, because there's like the inside Boston sports fan, right? So like all week I've been listening to your show because we all know something's going to happen. And I think like
I'm literally waiting for the Patriots to hit send on the press release. And in fact, we're recording this we're at 8:41 on Wednesday night right now.
I know.
And I'm expecting the press release to come out that, hey, there's a press conference scheduled at Gillette Stadium for 1:00 tomorrow. Like that's what I'm waiting for.
I mean, I had an alarm set the other day for Belichick.
And part of it, Megan, Megan, is because like I'm just wired this way that this is going to come at like 11:00 at night. It's going to come from the Patriots, and it's going to be and part of me is like, oh, it could happen while we're talking, and it's like we get the live reaction, and now somehow I try to make it a meme for us, and so on.
I did think about this before too. I was like, what if it happens? If it
you have to bleep the podcast because we let out an expletive, and I don't want to get you in trouble with your boss.
If it happens, though, and we can dive all into that. But like, okay, so there's the Boston sports fan that's like just that passionate where you're waiting for it, and we all are very aware of the story. And then I go to work today, and I've been doing this in small talk with everybody. I'm like, okay, I gotta know everybody I'm talking to. Do you guys think Bill Belichick's going to be with the Patriots next year? And I'll ask around, and most people are like, oh, I think the Patriots are going to trade him. I think they're going to part ways. Like they're definitely not going to fire them. And I'm like, have you listened to their show? Like I instantly like turn into Felger, and I'm like, no. So it's just funny how there's a inside Boston fan, and then the rest of the world.
I have a great awkward story for you about this.
Yes.
So Peter Chiarelli is the Bruins general manager, and he had thought he had a trade with Jerome McGinley, and then Sidney Crosby tampered, got McGinley to say no to the Bruins and yes to the Penguins. So they get Jaromir Jagr. I'm in the elevator that night with Bruins PR person who now does mortgages, and Peter Chiarelli. Mm-hmm. Now, I had never met Peter in person before. And Peter looks like there's this great interview that Paul Heyman does with Renee Paquette.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul talks about the interview and how he had the suit that he wore when his dad passed away. And it was the first time because he was trying to get into the moment because Brock Lesnar had left him. And so he's trying to like do that moment. Peter Chiarelli looks similar to how Paul Heyman looked in that interview. And I go, hi, Pete. Tough day for you? And the PR person is like, oh, my God. But he knows me. So he knows that I'm trying to like crack him up.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, he's giving me the no, not today type of thing. And
Oh
then I
my
go,
gosh.
I'm James from the Felger and Maz show, nice to actually meet you. And uh he goes, yeah, I don't listen to your show. I go, oh, we had all this stuff going on. Da, 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 da. And I'm just going into the thing, and
You guys
I'm
really
getting
do.
the axe because I don't know any better. Like
I mean,
I'm me.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but your show is sports entertainment.
It really
That is
is.
why I am
So
so drawn to it.
so Felger, he grew up in the AWA territory.
Mhm.
So he'll reference, like, if I'm talking to Jackson Blue, who does country, he's a huge wrestling fan. He does country down the hall at our radio cluster. He'll bring up like the High Flyers, Jim Brunzell,
Mhm.
and I can't think of the other one. It's not B. Brian Blair because that was the Killer Bees. Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne, right? They were the High Flyers in the AWA. So he knows it because I think his dad had some involvement as a bail bondsman
Okay.
in the area. So he'd bail out the wrestlers and then they'd go see the wrestling matches at like the Brewers ballpark or something like that. So Felger's got a lot of wrestling in him. He's got a lot of sports entertainment in him. He knows what he's doing.
Well,
He's
I love your show. I'm here for it. I don't listen every single day, but when big things are happening, like what is happening right now or what is about to happen in New England, your show is the only spot in my
I appreciate you saying that. I do have to ask you. I have to ask you about your name. I didn't forget about that. But
Yes.
yeah, any good Bill Belichick stories that you can share?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
if you say
I
no,
think I
it's
can
okay. I
share
understand the
them.
Patriots are big on embargoing stuff. I understand if you can't share any.
Yeah, I think I can. I mean,
Okay.
I've never been told that I couldn't, I don't think.
Okay. Good, good,
Um,
good.
yeah, I started working there when I was 22. So I was like, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and really couldn't even believe that I was there, and I remember I was so hungry to get reps, like I really want to get reps. I want to take this job and move on to the next step and move on to the next step. And I never really saw myself like in the team reporter role, but that was the opportunity that presented itself to me. And at 22, you get an opportunity to, cover the team that just won the Super Bowl on their historic run with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. You say yes. So I remember that first week just kind of being taken aback by all of it. And I remember we were at the Greenbrier for joint practices.
I remember the
And
Greenbrier.
I just remember getting the sound and, just standing there holding the mic, and that was it. And after a week of just really taking it in, I said, okay, Megan, you got to get in there and you got to ask questions, right? Like you need to come prepared and you need to ask the questions. And I remember I would sit front row next to Mike Reese. Yes, you guys, you can make fun of me all you want.
Fifth member of the Kraft family.
Yes, teacher's pet right here, bright eye, bushy tail, 22-year-old. And I would come and, ask a question to Bill. And part of it was more just like, the opportunity to ask this coach a question, one of the best to ever do it. But like, hey, that's not an easy thing to do. He's a pretty intimidating man, especially if you've, never talked to him. So I would go in and make sure I asked a question at every press conference. And then after a couple of years, he knew my name. And there was one press conference in particular, as he was getting off the podium, I was sitting front row and had a Northwestern sweatshirt on. Northwestern was getting ready to play in the Big Ten championship game. And he said to me, hey, go Cats. And I was like, yeah, go Cats. And afterwards, everyone was like, was Bill talking to you? And I was like, I guess so. So I was like, I guess, maybe Bill likes me. I don't think he really likes anybody. So especially when it comes to the media. So that was, the next day you could just walk right past you and never say a word. And that's just kind of who he is. But there was one day he was coming into the Patriots studio and to do his weekly interview for Patriots All Access. And I'm on my computer just scrolling and, doing whatever it was I needed to do. And I could feel somebody like standing over my shoulder. And I turn around and there he was, Bill Belichick. And he says, hard at work over here? And I was like, oh, coach, yeah, I was just reading up on whatever it was I was reading up on. And then we started talking about Northwestern women's lacrosse, and we had like a 15-minute conversation about Northwestern women's lacrosse, and that was that. And he said, have a good rest of your day, and walked away. It was a one-off, a random moment. Then the very next day in the press conference, he looks at you just the same way he looks at everybody else. But I did get to do 2 sit-down interviews with Bill, filling in for Scott Zolak. And after the final one I did, somebody had told him that I had just gotten engaged before I did the interview with him. And after the final interview I did with him, I got a note on my desk, and it was just a congratulations, wishing you the best in the new year. So I really, respect Bill a lot and enjoyed the time, and was always really thankful that he even acknowledged my presence, right? Trying to ask questions when I work for the organization. So, he's a very busy man, and I always thought it was nice of him to acknowledge me, if you will.
Have you acknowledged your tribal chief yet today?
Oh, I just did right now. I'm acknowledging the tribal chief.
So I guess I actually have 2 last questions, because we're late enough in this. I'll ask you, the first one is, how did you and WWE Creative come up with Megan Morant?
Oh, they asked me to submit names. It was like right after I got hired. They said, you got the job, you're moving to Orlando, Florida. And I just kind of dropped it all on my fiance at the time, who's born and bred in Massachusetts, that we're moving to Orlando.
Used to work at the Sports Hub, by the way.
Yes, used to work at the Sports Hub. That we're moving to Orlando, and I got this job with the WWE. We were planning our wedding, which was in Boston. We had just bought a condo. It was like a lot was happening. And I don't think Andrew said a word to me for like 8 hours. Not that he was mad. He was just processing. And then I got a call from Michael Cole, and he said, hey, I need you to submit some names for your new job. And I get off the phone. Andrew said, what's that about? I said, I got to submit some names. And for the first time since I dropped all this news on him, I could see him get very excited. And it was like, oh my God, this is happening. You really got this job. You're going to work for WWE. It was All-Star Weekend in the NBA. We were watching the NBA All-Star Game, and we just started saying Megan James, Megan Curry, Megan Tatum, and we just did that with athletes for like
Megan Tatum.
It was like Megan, and then I was like, Megan McCourty, would that be weird if I did that? Because I know Devin and Jason, Megan, we're like doing all of the sports names. And
Megan Kraft would have been the ultimate insider.
And then I said Megan Morant after Ja was on the screen, and he's such a fun player to watch. This was before he was in the news with negative press. So I submitted Megan Morant. Frank Thomas. Ooh, I have a bobblehead of him right here. Was my favorite baseball player, is my all-time favorite baseball player of all time. So I submitted Megan Thomas. And then I think Cole had picked one as well. So they got submitted, and it came back with Megan Morant, and that's who I am. So, yeah.
Frank Thomas was my first favorite non-Red Sox player.
Ah.
And I met him on the field at the 2013 World Series, and he was awesome. Really? Great guy. I don't know if you've ever met him.
No, I haven't.
Wonderful person to interact with.
I know I just like gave a whole mark out session on Belichick for a quick sec there, but I think because of going to the Super Bowl with the Patriots and working in WWE and stuff, there's not many people or athletes that I would really like mark out for. I think Frank Thomas is one of them. Be like, oh my God, you were my childhood. And Maglio Ordonez. I loved Mags.
He was almost a member of the Red Sox.
He was. And then
do you remember the trade?
It wasn't.
Do you remember the 2 trades?
Wasn't it with Nomar?
So the rumor at the time was Manny was going to Texas for A-Rod.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 pitchers that were involved in that deal also. McCarthy was a right-handed pitcher I think it was Daniel McCarthy, was going from the Rangers to the Red Sox with A-Rod. Manny Ramirez was going with John Lester to the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
The other trade was Nomar for Maglio Ordonez.
Yes, I remember Nomar, and then Nomar ended up on the Cubs for a hot minute, and I hate the Cubs.
Yeah, I'm not a Nomar guy.
Nomar guy.
I'm not a Nomar guy, but that stems from something else. That's an off-air story. That's an
Okay.
off-air show story.
What?
Okay, so my actual real last question, if this is embargoed, I understand. Give me your best Michael Cole story that you can tell. I purposely waited till the end of this so that, like, because if he listens and air checks this, he's not making it to the 50-minute mark.
Cole. I mean, Cole's always been so great to me. He's like the most laid back, hands off boss that you could ever have. I think my best story with Cole is how, and it's not even really a story, but he was just so encouraging of when I was going through the process of deciding to donate my kidney and then donating my kidney because his wife received a kidney.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so he was just like such a helpful resource, and he was like whatever whatever you need, like, take time off, and he was great. And I think a lot of people didn't get it, in fact a lot of people in my life like kind of try to talk me out of it, which is fine. I'm a big girl, I can make my own decisions, but Cole really was supportive and could tell me firsthand like how much it meant to a family. So that was awesome.
So Jason Wolf was my old program director at WEI because I spent 10 years at EI. This is the lost history of J Stu that nobody remembers, right? This was when I was Big Game James in the Michael Hawley, Dale Arnold era.
Oh, okay.
So Jason Wolf went to school with Michael Cole.
Yes, at Syracuse.
So WWE was in town in maybe like 02, 03, something like that. And Jason comes into the Dale and Hawley office. So it must have been later than that. It must have been like 04, 05, whatever it was. Comes in and says, "Do you know?" And he says Michael Cole's real name. And I go, "No, I don't. Why should I know that name?" He goes, "Well, he's a WWE broadcaster." And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Like, does he work like, the C show or whatever? It's like, no, he's on TV like every week. And I go, "Can you show me a picture?" And he shows me a picture. I go, "Oh, that's Michael Cole." And Jason Wolf is like calling him by his real name. Like, I'm supposed to know the guy's real name.
Oh my gosh. No, Cole's awesome. I think the other thing that I'll just note about Cole too, I kid you not, I knew not one thing about wrestling until I had my call with Cole, and he said, "I'll give you a month to watch." So like you said, it was a crash course. And I think I talk about that imposter syndrome, like not being from New England and suddenly working for the Patriots, and then similar with WWE, don't come from a wrestling background, and I have to talk wrestling. So I think that always creeps up a little bit, but Cole has been the number one person who is like, "Why are you overthinking this? You could literally do this in your sleep. You're gonna be fine. You belong here. You know what you're talking about. Now just go do it." And when your boss looks at you and says that, you're like, "Yeah." Yeah, I could do this. So I always appreciate how supportive he is in that way.
It's also like, it's a credit to you for adapting.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that too, because I think Cole does recognize the work that goes in to all of this.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's been fortunate enough to watch like the whole process of a day, and I actually sat with your husband in Lowell and I shot the breeze with him about like the whole process of, because the day that I did the NXT show, like I got there at noontime and there's already, I won't tell tales out of school, but like there's already people in makeup chairs.
Yeah.
There's already like vignettes being shot. There's already like the ring's not even fully built yet. And there's lights that have to go up. And, this is going on and this is going on. And it's like, it's a full day.
It
It's
is.
like a 16-hour day for the superstars and for the broadcasters, not including like the lighting guy or the TV guy or the the woman who puts the chairs out. Like, it's a full, like, it's it's not like a normal job. Like, and
No.
it's not like you're just sitting there. Well, I was sitting there for most of it, watching until I needed to do my thing. But like, you're in the makeup chair, you're in the barber chair. You have to shoot this scene 10 times, right?
Yeah.
Or I will share this story because I don't think it's telling a tale out of school. So we did the thing with I did the thing with Braun Breaker, and Sean Grande
Mhm.
did the thing with Carmelo Hayes. I don't know if you know this story actually. We had taped my thing with Braun at like 2:30 in the afternoon, and he was wearing a Miami Heat jersey because this was during the Heat Celtics series.
Mm.
Carmelo taped his thing with Sean Grande wearing a Celtics jersey, maybe
Love
about a
it.
half an hour later. So they all send it because everything goes through the legal process.
Mhm.
Legal comes back and says you can't have NBA jerseys on.
You know,
So
I'm gonna
this,
say because I would have called out just as I called out there's Jimmy. I would have called out repping the Celtics, and I don't recall them wearing it.
yep, I'll show you the photos. And so we had to retape, and like I'm there. Sean did his thing and then left.
Yeah,
Right? So because Sean Grandy's got to call Game 7 tomorrow. So
yeah.
he just got off the plane, came to the arena in Lowell, and he's got to go back to home. So he happened to be stopping at a gas station when he got the call, "Hey, can you come back? We need to reshoot this."
Wow.
But that's like a detail
Yeah.
that, like, not everything is sorry, not everything's live. But that's like a detail of like a superstar, a production, a WWE day is like the legal department flags something and now you have to go redo it.
Yeah, it's not a
That's
normal
not telling a
job.
tale out of school, by the way, is it?
I
Because I'll
don't think
clip it out.
so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that's out of school. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a normal job. WWE is different than anything else. They do TV different than anybody
Megan,
else.
it's the greatest form of entertainment. With
I
with
couldn't
with the
agree more.
layers of everything, you have to perform for TV, you have to connect with a live audience, you have to hit time cues. You have to know that you have to know what's coming, what's going. You have to improvise if something goes wrong. It's the greatest form of live entertainment there is.
What the superstars can do is unmatched. I mean, you just laid it out right there. Their entrances, working the cameras, working a match, cutting a
Working the
promo after
crowd,
the
getting
match.
the crowd emotionally invested in you,
Exactly.
being able to communicate
Owning
your
this
message, your
character.
story.
And on top of all of that, doing a backflip off the top rope through the table, whatever you name it. I mean, there's so much going on.
And
These
you as a broadcaster
are
being the soundtrack to their story and helping in whatever way possible to enhance their story.
Yeah, I'm just so in awe by everybody. I mean, today on the bump we had Me Chin on and her story of playing college volleyball and working her way to WWE and the match that she had on Friday. And I talked about Jinder earlier and what he's doing with Seth. And we had Nick Aldis on the show. I mean, every week I'm just amazed by these humans and what they're able to do.
I'll leave you with this because we're at almost an hour and I had told you like 10, 20 minutes tops.
Yes,
And we're like
yes.
just
We're
chatting
just
away.
chit
So I
chatting.
appreciate the time.
Of course. You never
So
know. We keep going, we might get the live
I
Belichick
well, well,
reaction. I also am in agreement with I think Felger said, that days go on, he starts to feel a little uneasy about it. I'm still not convinced that it's gonna happen until it happens.
well, you were a high ranking member of the Patriots organization, so I trust your
Don't say.
instinct on
But
some
here's
things.
the thing, like last year, WrestleMania, right? We all thought Cody was gonna finish his story. And what
Well,
happened?
you did. You Cody people did.
Everybody thought it,
No,
except
I
for
didn't.
you.
No,
We
I
all
didn't.
thought Cody was gonna finish his story, so I don't
No,
know.
you people did. I didn't.
Maybe it won't happen. Maybe Belichick will be back next year. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be quite the swerve, bro. Let me tell you.
Could. You never know.
So you mentioned Nick Aldis, and I will leave with this. And I sent you this message in real time because I saw you promoting the bump and Nick Aldis and everything. And I said,
He doesn't
you
wear
know,
sunscreen. Did you know that?
I
This
did not
man,
know
his
that.
porcelain skin said no sunscreen because he doesn't like the SPF chemicals. I'm like, okay, that's Because if I don't wear sunscreen, I'm going to be looking like a prune by the time I'm 50 years old, and nobody's going to want me on TV. All this, he's got the jawline to figure it out, you know?
I mean, I'm Irish, Scottish, and English, so like I got no chance with the sun.
Anyways, Nick Aldis. Yes, stern
So-
fist with the bloodline, that man.
So Nick Aldis, who is fearless when it comes to Roman Reigns, and here's why. He has held another championship for more than 1,000 days.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the face of a promotion, and granted, it wasn't WWE. Long-standing face of that promotion for many, many years. He's beaten Cody in a featured match for that promotion, and granted, it isn't WWE. So he's walked in similar shoes as Roman Reigns, and that's why he doesn't fear Roman Reigns. And granted, the stages are very different, but there's still that presence. There's still that aura with Nick Aldis, and that's why he doesn't fear Roman Reigns.
Now, I asked him today if he was at all concerned about any pushback from the bloodline like Adam Pearce experienced. And he said, let me think about that. No. Telling, very telling, no hesitation whatsoever. Not afraid of the bloodline. Yeah.
Well, and the thing with Adam Pearce is, I think he's retired because of injury. I think Nick Aldis is on a break. That's just a guess, because Megan, there's stories to be told on WWE programming, and you're a big part of the stories that are told. You're on the pre-shows, you're on the Bump, you're on Raw Talk, Smackdown Low Down. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think
Do you still do your own podcast? Don't you do a football podcast?
No, not doing it anymore. I miss it. I miss
Okay.
talking football. So if anybody would like to talk football with me, I am available. We can talk all day long about everything going on in the NFL. And now the Patriots are going to have the 3rd overall pick in the draft. So the season is really just starting.
Let me check Twitter. Let me check my email. See if there's
I have
anything
push
on Bill
notifications on
Belichick.
first after, and I haven't got anything. Well, I do have something from 16 minutes ago. Oh, someone just liked my tweet. That's all.
Let's see. Let's plug your social. Your social media is at Megan Morant WWE. You do have a blue check mark. Good job. If you've done it right, you can make money off of X.
You can? I need to
Yeah, we'll talk about this we'll talk about this in a little bit, because I made a profit off of X.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. But thank you for your hour. Thank you for going an hour Broadway with me. Appreciate it.
Of course. Love going an hour. Love 98.5. Shout out to everybody who is supporting the Kowloon, and maybe we'll all see each other there.
You are on the. We got to get you to Kowloon.
I know.
Right? There has been a specific request from Andy Wong for you to show up at Kowloon, so that's kind of a big deal.
Oh, I really blew it because they had a Peyton Pritchard meet and greet night the other day. Should have been there. Should have been there.
Sam Hauser, Sammy Buckets, as I like to call him, he's coming to the Kowloon February 4th, 5th, something like that.
All right. Well, it better not be the 4th because we have NXT Vengeance Day. But,
in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I will be on the kickoff show. If it is another day, you, me, Sam Hauser, Andy Wong, we're ripping it up at the Kowloon.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. All right, Megan Morant has been this week's guest on Stick to Wrestling. Thank you so much, and happy wrestling, everybody.